This is CPE 233. We're going to go over the syllabus. This is the syllabus for the spring 2021 quarter. So I teach two sections. I call it the 11 to 1 section and the 3 to 4 section. I'm sorry, the 2 to 4 section. My name is James Mealy. I prefer people calling me James. You can call me whatever you're comfortable with. My pronouns, he, him, his. Office hours are nominally 1 to 2 on Tuesday and 12 to 1 on Thursday. And so if these times don't work for you, just talk to me. We can work out other times. So anyway, this is all Zoom, of course. Course description is there. It's not overly useful because it's so ancient, but no one changes it. Prerequisites for the course, essentially it's CP 133, 129, 169. Hasn't been taught in 10 years. I'm not even sure why it's still listed in the prerequisites here. So the coursework for this course is essentially a bunch of books. I wrote all the books, and me and Paul wrote one of the books here. So the main book is Free Range Computer Design to RISC-V Otter. But additionally, there's also solutions manual for that. So lots of material there. There's an assembly language manual. There's a lab activity manual, which is the lab manual. And there's just a tutorial on Verilog, which is probably could be pretty helpful to you if you didn't really know what was going on in 133's Verilog. It'd be a great overview. It's not that long. Not too many examples in it, but it should be pretty helpful. Okay, all the courseware is on Canvas. Typically, it's under constant development, particularly the lab manual. So lab manual, by all means, every experiment, download a new lab manual. Software for the course is primarily the Xilinx Vivado software, which we'll be using essentially every experiment. Hopefully you have already have that downloaded on your computers. Now the idea here is there's a note somewhere on Canvas for Apple users. Other than that, you need to go to xilinx.com and grab the latest version, and it should be the Webpack version. And it is, I would get the oldest version you can. I'm still actually running 2018 at home, and it works fine. Homework for the class is there's no submitted homework. Essentially, there's tons of problems everywhere. There's 4 quarters of old quizzes. There's old exams. There's tons of problems in the text. There's sample problems. You need to do as many problems as you feel you need to do to understand the course material. So I say do all the problems, but it's up to you to determine exactly how many you're going to do. So the grading for this class, there's 2 options here, and I've listed those 2 options in these columns here. And the notion is that if you don't like taking weekly quizzes, you don't really need to. And so what I'm going to do at the end of the course is to take calculate your grade using both of these columns and give you the higher grade. And so what's interesting about these columns is that if you don't take quizzes, it pushes a lot of weight to the final exams, which it shouldn't be that big a deal. If you know the course material, the final exams are not that big a deal. If you don't know it, they are a big deal. And so what else? Their lab submissions are only 20% of the grade, acknowledging that there's lots of old work out there and you're working with partners and that type of thing. Essentially, the other assessments, like the exams, are kind of do your own work. Lab submissions are work with someone typically. So quizzes are generally every Friday, and that's about it. So the lab experiments are due, what I call them lab submissions, which is essentially the lab reports, are due 6 class meetings after the lab is assigned. And I say it every quarter, but I mean it this quarter. These are hard deadlines. I'm not going to extend them. And so these experiments, get them started early, particularly experiment 1, which is longer. The next couple of experiments after experiment 1 are not that long. So typically don't submit anything unless your hardware is working or unless it's simulating properly. And more importantly, only submit good stuff. don't submit junk. If you submit junk, I'm pretty much not going to grade it. Just I'm just going to give you a low score and move on. It's not that bad. There's a complete description of what I like to see written in the front of the lab manual. Read over it, please. So you can work in groups if you want to. I support you 100%. I am going to tell you in advance that you can't form new large groups for experiments after experiment 7. So you're kind of fixed at that point. And make sure, once again, make sure you use the latest and greatest lab manual before you start any experiment. So lab submissions are essentially the lab reports. I want 1 per group. Like I said, you're welcome to form groups. These are submitted via Canvas. There's a complete description in the lab manual. Read it over. Okay, and it's not lab reports, it's lab submissions. I think I X'd out the lab report guidelines. So lab reports, not for this class, we're doing lab submissions. I do give a lab final and a lecture final. The lab final is either going to be during dead week or during finals week. And the big notion here is just, don't just do the labs. You got to understand what you're doing. They're out there for a purpose. If you miss that purpose, you're going to have a hard time in the rest of the class. There's, typically they're a lot of work, but then again, there's not any homework in the class. So if you're working with someone and you divide up the work, make sure you understand what the other person did. So the course is officially flipped. It's not synchronous or asynchronous according to the definitions that I know about. Typical day in class is you listen to the videos, and if you have questions, you drop by the Zoom during class time and ask me questions. There are some Zoom office hours, like I said, posted as well. And emails, I'm practically always available for emails. Don't hesitate to ask me questions on emails. So what else here? Yeah, there's a lot of people in the class. It hasn't been a problem in the past, for better or worse. The problem is that I know a lot of people who should have asked questions didn't ask questions. But if you don't want to ask questions of me, I should have 2 or 3 TAs this quarter. I hope that you start becoming self-sufficient in this course, which primarily means you learn how to solve your own problems, which primarily means use the debugger, which hopefully you have some experience with from CP 133. So I generally speaking, I'll work with you forever unless students are waiting, and then I kind of limit my time and try to multiplex around. So I call it 10 minutes, but sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. So keep in mind that if your needs are not met, you just need to talk to me about it, and we'll figure something out. So if I need to change the syllabus, I will. Particularly if something's not right somewhere in the course, I ask you to write me. Particularly, I probably forgot or messed something up. Let me know so I can correct it. So my job is to help you learn and to evaluate what you've learned. Please, help me out as best you can here. If there's something you need, ask me. I do feel everyone has the ability to excel in this course. You got to give me a chance to help you out if you're having problems. The big push recently is diversity and inclusion. I think this is kind of like about time. Super important issue. I have a full diversity statement listed somewhere on Canvas, but this is kind of the shortened version here. And my big thing here is that students come from various backgrounds. I'm going to strive to acknowledge that and kind of help students in the way they want to be helped as best I can. Additionally here, learning used to be kind of a one-size-fits-all, but we're moving away from that, kind of from the equality approach to the equitable approach. So people don't all need the same things, and I'm going to try to give people what they need here. And so I think, The old learning paradigm used to be that, are you good enough to be an engineer? And now I don't think that's the case anymore. It's my job is to help you be a good engineer, and I'm more than willing to put the time into doing that. You just have to we have to work together on that. So these are the final exam times. This is tentative. Like I said, I may give the lab final during the Friday of finals week, and I'll decide that later. I do have the ability to give you finals for 2 different separate times during the standard finals week. And so that's it. If you got questions, by all means, ask me.